Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are starting our brand new Path to series. What's the Path to this time? Well, you might have seen it in the title. It is the Path to the Edinburgh. So, with that being said, we got to start at tier number 3, which, by the way, I will not be playing tier 3 in the heavy cruiser line. So just as a heads up when we do that path too. But we've already got tier 3 here. We're going to be using Bruce Fraser with Nikolai Kuznetsov and Norman Scott as our inspirations. We have Beyond Range Igniter, which is kind of stupid because we don't actually have that. I'm assuming this is still the same because of the fact that I was using this for heavy cruisers as well. So let's see what we got. Probably go with the torpedo range, just as a heads up for this build. So that would actually come in handy in this match, to be honest. But punch through, fixated, and fully packed as our skills. Okay? If we look at our equipment, we're running Aiming Systems Mod 1. Now, being that this is the first video in the series, I guess we should look at other commander builds as well. So, we've got William Tennant. William Tennant is the brawler commander for the cruisers, and I don't know, I'm just not a big fan of running all of this personally, but if you want, go for it. He does give you reduced damage to your Citadel, which probably come in handy on this line, because these things get Citadel the entire way. We got Isiroko Yamamoto, which you could swap out for Kuznetsov and Norman Scott, obviously. That would be the ones that I recommend. Getting extra range on your guns to keep you at distance, as well as keeping your accuracy up, is kind of big. Okay, but we are running Piercer, full speed ahead, sponge, acoustic chamber, and fully packed here. You could go with the ingenious skill, which gives you a little bit faster traverse on your guns, reduces incoming splash damage, but also gives you a warning indicator telling you how many people are looking at you. But that's the kind of whether you want one or the other. Alright, let's see who else they've got. They got Hot Rod, which I've not actually looked at this commander, so let's take a look at it. Again, inspiration-wise, probably going to be the same. Either Isiroko Yamamoto, because you're stuck with AP for this entire line. The light cruisers only get to shoot AP. So, you got to try to buff your AP as best you can. But, again, Kuznetsov, Norman Scott, probably be good, or Kuznetsov and the Isiroko Yamamoto. Now, for inspiration, or for commander skills, you got Ingenious or Piercer, either or. And then, of course, you've got full speed ahead or before it's too late. Again, probably, personally, I would probably go with Piercer and full speed ahead. And then you've got Sponge, Velocious, or the special skill, which is Prescience? I don't know how the hell. Prescience? I don't know how you would say that. Reduce air detection radius and increase radar duration. So this doesn't really come into play until much later in the tech tree. But yeah, and then of course you got Steer Clear, Acoustic Chamber, and Fully Packed. Let's see who else they got. They got John Jellicoe, which is the generic commander, which doesn't have the most things in the world. But again, for inspirations, you're looking at Isiroko Yamamoto, you're looking at Nikolai Kuznetsov, and you're looking at Norman Scott, probably for the three. You know, you can swap one or the other, whichever you like. His skill is repair party duration increased. We've got Burn It Down, which you can't use for the light cruisers. Contact is imminent, I guess, would help. Or buffing your plane or your anti-aircraft. You've got Look at Me Now, which helps reduce your detectability. You've got Crisscross, which increases your turret traverse, or you've got Before It's Too Late. So here I would probably go with one of these two. Personally, probably the turret traverse, at least early on in the line. Back in stock gives you your torps back sooner. Detectability of torpedo bombers goes up, or you have Velocious. Probably would go with the torpedo reload here, even though the torpedoes reload relatively quickly anyway. Obviously, you're not going to be using Burn Baby Burn because you don't have any HE bombers. But Reaching Out XXL is probably a good one, or Steer Clear. But you get the chance to use Will to Rebuild with this build. So I could see somebody using that, but probably would go with Fully Packed, personally. Azure Lane Belfast is the last commander, and again, this is more heavy cruiser centric. Of course, this could be for anything, but you get ship's detectability after firing main guns from a smoke screen. So that's a good thing. That's her base perk. Again, you would probably use Isiroko, Yamamoto, Nikolai Kuznetsov, or Norman Scott as your 2 inspirations. But you've got Ingenious that you can use, or you go with Beyond Range or Piercer. So you could potentially go with a full like armor piercing build here and go with Piercer, but then that's gonna stop you from being able to shoot as far. So keep that in mind. So this one kind of gives you the best of both worlds in terms of being able to buff your AP even more, like the Brawler build, but also keep your regular perks that you would take from the Dispersion build as well. So personally, Beyond Range or Piercer are interchangeable depending on your playstyle. Smokescreen, you don't get that for the Danae, but later on that comes in handy. I think even starting at the Emerald you get a smokescreen, so very next tier this will be kind of nice. And so probably end up switching to Belfast for the rest of the line. But as you can see, I don't even have this thing leveled up, so I'm not going to be able to take full advantage of this thing. I don't have any insignias at the moment, so I would only be able to get this thing up to level 13 currently. But yeah, so moving on, we've got Smokescreen, we've got Igniter, and Full Speed Ahead. So this again comes down to what you want to build for. If you're going with the Smokescreen and that's what your play style is, then you would probably go with that. Otherwise, go with Full Speed Ahead. Igniter, obviously, for the light cruisers doesn't do you any good. Okay? So Full Speed Ahead gives you better cruiser maximum speed as well as a reduced rudder shift time to make you even more difficult to hit at range. Then, of course, you've got Sponge, which reduces your incoming damage, as well as increases the hit points of your armaments, so your guns and your torpedoes and so on, your AA. So that's always a good thing. But Punch Through is probably what I would choose personally. And then, of course, you have Light Fortress, which is her like special skill, which reduces the incoming damage for cruisers, which is kind of dumb, because you have that over here, plus you get other things. So this perk is kind of one of the dumbest things that I've seen in terms of a special skill, just due to the fact that you literally have a better perk that is a base perk. Like, this is supposed to be her special perk, and it's worse than this perk. So that's just my opinion. And then, of course, you have Acoustic Chamber, which gives you an extra sonar charge, and Fixated, which helps increase your decrease your dispersion and your grouping as well. So this is a double-edged good buff. So this decreases the overall dispersion of the shells. So you have a much smaller, or a smaller area that your shells can land in when you're targeting a ship, as well as increases the grouping of the shells, which means that your shells are more likely to stick together rather than spread apart. And then, of course, you have Refill Station and By the Book. Now, you don't get to use, not Will to Rebuild, was the other one, Fully Packed with this build, unfortunately. But you could reduce this even further. The base is damage control reload time and damage control party duration. But the active skill, if you're close enough to an allied ship, you could actually keep yourself... I mean, that's a 20% damage reduction for this ship, if it's close to other allies. So keep that in mind. And then Refill Station, we already know what that is. So it gives you extra range if you're close to an allied ship. Or you have better reload, better reload time as a passive effect. So all the time. All right, so that's the builds for this particular line. Again, don't know that you would take advantage of a whole lot. Azure Lane Belfast or Bruce Fraser seem to be the better of the builds, personally. But I don't have Belfast leveled up yet, so I'm stuck. Now let's look at the actual ship. We are running Aiming Systems Mod 1. We are fully upgraded. If we look at Danae, Danae's one of the only cruisers at low tier that actually gets a heal. That's because it's basically the lead up for the battleships, but it is also still a cruiser, so we get to showcase it with a heal. Now, obviously, we're running Regia Marina Camo, which gives us a minus 4.5% to incoming dispersion and also your concealment. And then community contributor flag on this thing as well. You also get the sonar at low tier, but most cruisers do. So that's nice. And it has a 3.5 kilometer surface detection of ships, so it comes in handy too. It's not amazing, but it does help. Survivability, 20,900 hit points with no torp reduction. Artillery, you have 152 millimeter 45 caliber main battery guns. You have 6 of those, reaching out to 14.5 kilometers and reloading in 7.5 seconds. 180 degree turn time is just 18 seconds. It's not too slow, but it is a little bit on the slower side for a a light cruiser. AP shell maximum damage is 3,132. So pretty solid. And you'll notice that there is no HE. The light cruisers for this entire line are stuck with AP only, which is one of the reasons why I don't play them very often. I'll go over that as we get there. But torpedoes. You have 533 millimeter TR Mark 1s that reach out to... Whoa, hold on. The reload time is 71 seconds. The maximum damage is just 11,967, so not the hardest hitting torpedoes, but solid nonetheless. You got to think this is at tier 3, guys. Torpedo detectability is 1.2 kilometers, so pretty sneaky. And then torpedo range is 6.6 kilometers with this build. Now that's only 6 kilometers if you take that perk off that extends the range of the sonar and you have igniter on like I was during this match, so keep that in mind. 59 knot top speed for the torps. AA defense, basically non-existent, just like every other low tier ship. 12.7 millimeter Mark 3s, you have 16 of those doing 8 damage per second, reaching out to 1.2 kilometers. And 40 millimeter Vickers 2-pounders, you have 16 of those doing 40 damage per second, reaching out to 2.5 kilometers. Maneuverability, maximum speed is 30.8 knots with a turning circle of 540 meters and a rudder shift time of 6.1 seconds. So not the most agile, not the most mobile cruiser in the world. So Danae has a bad reputation of getting dev struck. Just keep that in mind. Danae is one of the easiest ships to dev strike from any angle. This thing just seems to scream to die. Detectability range by sea is 9.1 kilometers. Detectability by air is 5.7 kilometers. Guaranteed detectability is 2 kilometers, and detectability while firing in smoke is 4.2 kilometers. So that is one thing that these ships are all very good at. These light cruisers for the British have amazing detectability while firing in smoke for cruisers. Oftentimes it's going to be down in that 4 kilometer range, whereas most cruisers are like 6.2, somewhere in that. So it gives you a nice little buffer for being closer to things and not being detected while firing in smoke. Armor. Armor is both a blessing and a curse on this ship. This ship has really decent armor at the belt. Everywhere else, not so much. But at the belt, you can see it's got 38 millimeter bow armor and belt armor all the way back until it's 76 at the the Citadel location. The problem is that's thick enough to arm pretty much everybody's armor piercing. You're not getting overpinned unless somebody hits high. So what happens is 9 times out of 10, you're trying to maneuver to avoid a shot. The shell still hits, goes right through this thin armor at the top and detonates you. Whether it is an actual detonation or you just get dev struck is just the way this ship ends up. So you've got to try to not get destroyed in this ship really, really hard, because it happens more often than any other ship, and you can see why. I mean, the Citadel on this thing is massive. As you can see, it's raised the entire way. The front is raised, the rear is raised, the middle is all the way raised. If it was any higher, you could shoot the smokestack and get a Citadel. This thing is literally a floating citadel of sadness, but it can be a lot of fun too. I like to play super aggressive in it, but again, that is how I end up dev struck, and how I end up dead more often than not. But when it works, it's absolutely glorious until it isn't. So, with that being said, let's take a look at this. Actually, we forgot to do the overview. Sequential. Torpedoes can be launched one by one, which we don't take advantage of in cruisers very often. But sometimes you want to do that. Flare for piercing means it's equipped with only AP shells, so there's that. Paper thin. Higher caliber shells overpin the armor without armoring, causing minimal damage. Bull crap. Don't ever assume anybody's going to overpin you. Assume that it's a depth strike waiting to happen. This thing literally will send you back to port in a heartbeat. So keep that in mind. Danae, developed from the preceding Caledon class cruiser ships. In contrast to her predecessors, she was bigger in size and had more powerful torpedoes. In addition, Danae featured reinforced artillery. She entered service in 1918. There were 8 of them in the series. So let's take a look at it. I mean, you got to think of when she went into service. Like, this is actually a decent looking ship for as old as it is. I mean, if you look at some of the other old cruisers in the game, like, this is actually a pretty modern looking hull design and everything. So that's something that I will say about the Danae. But again, don't ever assume that anything is going to overmatch you or overpin you, because it will absolutely send you back to port in a heartbeat. So with that being said, let's get to the gameplay. Alrighty, so we're going to be on straight, and we are also going to be bottom tier, which is something you got to get used to, guys. One of the things that I will say that a lot of people struggle with is being up tiered. When you're bottom tier, it doesn't feel good. But to say that you're bottom tier and you just give up like a lot of people do, that's stupid. Because in this game, the difference between the tier that you're in and the tier that you're up against isn't always a huge, significant difference. And a lot of times, you can do just fine as a bottom tier ship. And in fact, you can be extremely aggressive because a lot of times people underestimate a bottom tier ship. I don't know why, but people just, they don't have respect for this ship. And that allows this ship in particular, the Danae, to be a lot more aggressive and get away with things that other ships maybe wouldn't be able to. So, we're going to showcase the strengths, the weaknesses, and eventually the ultimate demise of the ship based on my gameplay style. Now, remember, I am one of the most aggressive players in the game. Alright? Not everybody will have fun playing the game the way I do. So keep that in mind. But we're going to push forward. We have a carrier that is enjoying the scenery. He's swooping past our battleships. He's not really doing anything that carrier should be doing, which is getting your plane straight out into the open to spot as quickly as possible. But what is there to be expected at low tiers, am I right? So anyway, we're being told to get back. The Rhine is already like, no, get back, Spartan. Don't engage. You're in a Danae. Why would you ever engage? But he gets these guys spotted, and I see the Bellerophon on my right. I see the Emerald, and the Emerald is appearing to come back across to the left side of the island, which is perfect. This is going to allow me to set an ambush for this man. And an ambush we will set. Now remember, this is a tier 4 ship, which is the next tier up from me in this Danae, right? The Emerald is the next one in the line that we will be taking a look at. Now we go ahead, we launch all 6 of our torpedoes, which is something that a lot of people don't understand. You get 6 torpedoes in this thing. He launches his torpedoes, we don't even have to worry about it. We've got the torps in the water, he's going to come around the corner broadside, we're going to punch him right in the mouth with our armor piercing, getting 3 citadels right there, taking almost half his hit points. He's going to turn out, he's going to smoke up, and he is going to end up absolutely turning back in front of our torpedoes, which is hilarious. Then we have to turn our attention to the G101. So G101 turns his bow a little too much. We punch him in the mouth. We hit the Emerald with 2 torpedoes, and we're going to showcase that the armor piercing of these British cruisers is really, really nasty versus destroyers. Like, destroyers versus these things will get smacked. They're used to, ooh, we can do whatever. No. A British light cruiser's armor piercing will almost always arm inside the ship of a destroyer and will absolutely annihilate it. Usually in 2 salvos. We ended up getting 3 salvos because he stayed bow in and we missed a couple shells, but you could see how nasty that was. Now the Bellerophon, he's thinking about his life choices, and he's still going to decide to make the wrong choice. Now you can see I am once again using the island, trying to set up an ambush. We've already got 2 kills. So we're feeling pretty good about this match already, right? We're 30,000 damage and we just started the match. Remember, everybody, get back! Get back! You're in a Danae, get back! No. No. Play the ship like you want to play it. And if you're down-tiered, just play it a little bit safer or a little smarter. You don't have to be super passive in freaking ships. And in these ships, you don't want to be super passive because the armor piercing does better up close when you have the broadsides of battleships to look at, for instance. And yeah, we're going to punch him. That one wasn't the greatest. We actually shattered 4 shells, only got 2 penetrations for 1,000 damage. But we aim for the bow side plating. We get a much better result that time. And that's what you want to look for in these ships. You want to look for things like in American battleships, you want to look for their superstructure. Germans as well. German and American superstructures are absolutely juicy for these British light cruisers. But also the upper side plating and the bow side plating. Obviously, some ships, you got to learn your ships, but some ships have the belt armor that goes all the way to the bow. You got to know which ones, usually German, but there's a couple other, I think the French as well. There's a few ships that have that belt armor going all the way to the bow. And so you got to know those ships, and you want to aim a little higher. You want these to be penetrating. You don't want to be shattering and bouncing off of the belt armor. Remember, it's low caliber armor piercing. While it's very good low-caliber armor piercing, it's still low-caliber armor piercing. So even if you're able to penetrate initially, you're not going to pass all the checks needed to get through that belt armor. So you're going to end up with shatters more often than not. But we're going to continue to push. We've already wiped out this side. We've got a couple battleships behind us pushing up with us. Our carriers being as useful as possible, as far away from the fight as possible. But again, what would you expect out of a carrier player that tells you to get back at the beginning of a match? Am I right? But we're going to push up. We've got an Ishizuki here. We've got the enemy on the run. Like, this is the thing. Now, this is the dangerous part of these ships. You're going to get into an open water gunfight. We don't have smoke, unlike some of the ships do later on. Like I said, I'm fairly confident Emerald and from here on out have smoke. But as a solo player, we don't get to use it. Now, there's another thing that you don't really recognize with this ship, or these light cruisers very often. They have very good shell velocity. So you can see I actually overled him on the first one, but you can see we are absolutely raking this man. We got three penetrations there. He's starting to kind of turn away. We get a couple more penetrations, aiming for that superstructure. Of course, the Japanese battleships don't have the extra hit points to the superstructure that other ships do, like the Americans or the Germans, but you can still get some decent damage, and he takes some big hits from our battleships as well. And us keeping these guys spotted also is going to help our team by allowing us to get some spotting damage. Now, I think that the guy that just came out from behind the island is going to take over the spotting because he's closer to the target. I don't know exactly how that works. I don't know if I continue to be the spotter due to the fact that I'm still spotting him, technically. Or if he comes out from behind the island, he's closer, and so now he gets credit for spotting the guy. Not sure how that works. Somebody that knows the game better than me can probably let me know down in the comments. But you can see every time this guy goes broadside, we start to stack up penetration. Every time. Now, if we had a decent chance to sit at range, you can actually get plunging fire down into the deck of these battleships and do some damage too. But I tend to be a lot more aggressive, so that means I tend to need people to go broadside in front of me in order for me to score good penetrations. And we're going to score plenty of good penetrations here on the Ishizuki as well as the rest of these battleships. But then we're going to get a little overconfident. And this is what I'm talking about with people just ignoring the fact that the Danae exists. Like, I've been sitting here, this guy hasn't even shot at me. Like, he's going to shoot a couple shells of high explosive in our direction eventually, like right here. He misses, but he hasn't even shot me, really. And so we've gotten away with quite a bit, which is hilarious. And that's something that I don't know why people just ignore the Danae, but they do. And I appreciate it because it allows you to do some pretty ridiculous things. But you can see as he turns away, we're not far enough back for the plunging fire to take effect, so we're just bouncing and ricocheting off of a ship. And that's the downside to these British light cruisers. Like, the armor piercing is very good, but the problem is anybody, it's a one-trick pony and everybody knows it, so all they have to do to negate it is just turn away or turn towards you. and that almost completely stops your ability to do damage. And at that point, you're going to have to rely on torpedoes to do damage, or the stupidity of the enemy to just turn broadside. Now, he fires HE at it again, and we can't sleep on the HE that the battleships shoot at us either. The HE is fully capable of citadeling a Danae. So you also got to keep that in mind. Anytime somebody fires anything at this ship, just assume it's a citadel and turn away. Try to avoid getting hit at all costs. Now here, it looks like the Wakeful is actually dead in the water, so I take a shot at him, but he's actually going to get moving again, just as we get the shots on target. And we do score 1,000 damage hit, which is what I'm talking about. Like, you get full penetrations on these guys, or good penetrations, with the armor piercing. Now, Ishizuki goes down, and we've got a beautiful, fat, juicy Nevada broadside to us. And this is the part where you've got to play with fire a little bit. Now, obviously, we know that our armor is fully capable of letting things pass right through without taking as much damage. But, more often than not, it's going to end with your immediate removal from the game and demise and headed back to port. And I don't know how many other ways I could say that you will die. More often than not in this sort of situation. But, as you can see, we are able to get away with getting only penetrations or regular pins against this Nevada. And that is going to cause me to become slightly, you know, just ever so slightly overconfident. Now, we've got a Nassau out here, and the Nassau isn't noted for its accuracy, okay? It is not the most inaccurate, but it's more noted for its secondaries, I believe. I could be wrong. But I think it's noted for its secondaries, which is why a lot of people run secondary builds on it. So I'm not gonna lie, I kind of sleep on this Nassau a little bit. We do take a torpedo here, which was kind of dumb. I can't believe I took that torpedo, but it is what it is. I knew it was there, I tried to avoid, I screwed it up. And you can see we are trying to hit this freaking Rhine and do some damage here. And we're gonna get a little bit overconfident. We're gonna stop, like, we're gonna tunnel vision is the word I'm looking for. The Nassau's coming towards us, which means he is in torpedo range. I should be launching my 6 torpedoes at him, and I didn't even think about it. We did score another decent hit, and that just showcases right there how quickly you can be sent back to port. It wasn't a dev strike for him, but it was a pretty solid salvo, and he immediately removes us from the match. But again, it's to be expected. The Ryan ends up getting obliterated after that. I'm not gonna lie, I was feeling pretty bad right after this, and it was all my fault. There was nothing that I completely screwed the pooch on this engagement. That Nassau pushing up on me like that was just begging for torpedoes, and the Montecuccoli, to his credit, or the Montecuccoli, I apologize to the Italians out there. He recognizes that this Nassau is an absolute, like, bot. He's sailing in a straight line, and he launches the slowest moving torpedoes in history, and Nassau is going to eat both of them. And he's going to go down, which just goes to show, if I had launched my torpedoes, at very least, even if we die, at very least we end up sinking the Nassau and getting a lot more damage. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. I know it's not the highest damage game, but 68,000 damage in a Danae is not too shabby. So let me know what you guys think down below, and if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.